Okay, let's go.
Mhm.
Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Ben, that's a nice shirt you have on today.
Game. D. I'm always trying to look a little better for you and the guests who now see me.
Aw.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important that podcasters realize or recognize that we're role models when it comes to fashion. That's why that shirt you're wearing right now, thousands and thousands of people across America are going, I want to look like Dr. D.
It's only you. It's only you that can see me.
Oh yeah. Take that out of the the podcast. Would you edit that one?
Video streaming coming soon on the Ben Joravsky Show. All right. All right, your Ben Joravsky Show for Wednesday, January 13th is just moments away. But before we do this, we need to thank the following sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor. They're sponsors as well. And today's Ben Joravsky Show, as well as every Ben Joravsky Show, is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Reader. You have a song of the day? Okay, Kyle on the live stream chat, I guarantee he doesn't know who Bare Naked Ladies are. It's a group.
Oh, my God, are you kidding? Oh, my God. One time they were at the United Center, and I waited in line all night to see them. And my favorite song is Cover Up. Their song Cover Up. Do you know that song?
I know it. I know it very well. Huge fan you are there. From the Rolling Stones, Get Off My Cloud.
Oh, it's a good song. Hey, you get off of my cloud. I'm Charlie Watts on drums.
The Ben Joravsky Show. It is Wednesday, January 13th, and live from my apartment in his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson. And now your host, legendary Chicago journalist in training, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this MAGA Takes the Fall Wednesday, and here's why. So as I speak, the House of Representatives is debating whether to impeach President Donnie again. Two schools of thought on this matter. Let's start with number one. Trump clearly incited his cult-like followers to siege the Capitol last Wednesday. We all heard it. Words matter. We should hold Trump accountable for his actions. No one, not even Donald Trump, is above the law, etc., and so forth. Number two. Oh, come on, man. That was just Donnie being Donnie. He was just talking trash. He didn't really mean for MAGA to besiege the Capitol and hit a cop over the head with a hockey stick and bash another cop over the head with a fire extinguisher and wear pro-Nazi sweatshirts and break down doors and chase police up stairwells and steal stuff from Nancy Pelosi's office and scare the hell out of everyone in the building and in America and in the world and carry a Confederate flag through the Capitol. Okay, maybe he meant that. Plus, you say you want unity, Dems? Well, now let's show some unity. Unity as in let Donnie do whatever he wants and get away scot-free. That's the Republican argument that they're putting forth. The law and order and liberty crowd, that's law and order for you, liberty for me. Meanwhile, stories are breaking about some of the individual rioters, some of the individual insurrectionists who were dumb enough to follow Donnie's call to action. All kinds of folks. A wide array, including an Olympic gold medalist. Cleet Keller is his name. He's a swimmer, won 2 gold medals, one in 2004, another in 2008, as part of the 4x200 freestyle relay team, which was led by the great Michael Phelps, among others. Anyway, old boy Cleet Keller, well, he's in heck of a trouble, mainly because there's no doubt that it was Mr. Cleet Keller in the Capitol. For one thing, he's hard to miss. He's 6'6", which is really tall. For another thing, you can see who it is because he's not wearing a mask. You know, he being of the MAGA persuasion. COVID? It's not real, is it? I'm not wearing a mask. And if all that wasn't enough clues, he was wearing a U.S. Olympic team jacket. There are no truth to the rumors that he was also wearing one of those little stickers that you wear at high school reunions that say, "Hi, my name is Cleet Keller." Let's pause to think about this, ladies and gentlemen. The arrogance to think that he could just walk away without any consequences for having invaded the Capitol. I mean, I guess I can understand why he would think that. The man he loves, Donald Trump, gets away with murder. No reason to think that the Trumpettes, or whatever MAGA calls itself, can't do the same thing. Well, it wasn't long before his old pals in the swimming world identified him and let everyone know what he was up to, probably because they didn't want in any way to be associated with him. Turns out, Cleet Keller works for Hoff and Lee, a real estate company in Colorado, or used to. When reporters came a-calling to Hoff and Lee, the company confirmed Cleet Keller's employment and then removed his profile from their website and then issued a statement that said that he had resigned from his position. And then they released the following statement, which I will now read. Hoff and Lee supports the right of free speech and lawful protest, but we cannot condone actions that violate the rule of law, end of quote. And so it looks like Cleet Keller is paying a price, even as Republicans argue that Donald Trump should go free. Michael Cohen warned you, MAGA. Michael Cohen, of course, the former lawyer for Donald Trump, worked for Trump for many, many years. And then he took the fall and ended up in the federal pen. He told you from experience, you climb into bed with Donald Trump and you're going to wind up with fleas or some kind of plague. The point is, it's just not going to be good for you. It'll be okay for Donnie, but not for you. To this point, this breaking news. Just before I came on the air, D, that was the sound of the smashing bottle. Oh my God, Mitch McConnell, you are slick. Mitch McConnell, Senator Mitch McConnell, the Republican leader of the Senate, has announced that he won't reconvene the Senate for an impeachment trial. It's breaking news. Yes, he won't reconvene the Senate for impeachment trial in the next few days while he's still the leader of the Senate. Basically, he's waiting until Joe Biden is taken over as president and Chuck Schumer is taken over as leader of the Senate, and then let them deal with this mess. This comes one day after Mitch McConnell had one of his sidekicks tell the New York Times that he's open to impeachment. Tell you what, that old Mitch McConnell, he's wily as a fox. What he's doing is he's distancing himself from the Ted Cruzes and the Cleet Kellers of the world, the dummies who will follow Trump wherever he leads. But he's not going to lift one finger to see that Trump's punished for his deeds because he doesn't want MAGA to get all mad at him. The only ones who get punished in this world are the Cleet Kellers, the true believers who are so dumb and deluded they'd follow Donnie off a cliff. We got a great show today, everybody. The legendary Monroe Anderson will be here. We'll be picking up our political conversation where we left it off last week when the Marauders took over the Capitol. Good. What will happen this week as I look at Monroe on my Google Meet? See what untold stories he's seeing in the news through his eyes. Anyway, Monroe Anderson, plenty of political talk ahead, but before we do that, the young man from Alton, the man that Cleet Keller fondly calls.
I've never met that guy in my life.
All right, let's take that one out and substitute with this D in the podcast. The man that Michael Phelps fondly calls Dr. D with the news.
Never met him either. How's it going? Oh, he's a swimmer. That's right, Michael Phelps.
Yes.
Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. And I hope no one is starting to get sick of our reoccurring Madigan bus bit, because today it continues. But I think today may be the payoff. And my, what a difference a day makes. We have someone new to welcome onto the bus. The bus waiting to figuratively roll over Michael Joseph Madigan and replace him as Speaker of the House. And unlike everyone else on this bus, this guy's coming on, and he is immediately taking the wheel. Move over, Ann Williams. You're not driving anymore. He's currently waiting outside the bus as we speak, Ben. And it looks like, hold on. Yeah, it looks like he's on his cell phone. He's been on that thing all day. All right, well, let me just check the bus door to make sure he is, in fact, on his phone. Hold on a second. Oh, wait, that's the bus door. Oh, wait, hold on. All right, yeah, he's on his cell phone.
Wait, where's the little cell phone noise?
Oh, what am I, just super producer? Dude, we don't have meetings.
Wait, what's her name? Velma! What happened to that? Yeah, the sound department in this podcast is really, I don't know, D.
Well, that's my job, nice. So you just kind of, WBEZ, if you're listening. I do a good job.
By the way, D, don't forget to take the song off the top, okay? Because I sent in my
I don't edit anything. Okay, let's open up the bus door here. Oh, my goodness. Still the same thing. Something's going on with my equipment today.
That's what she said.
Okay, let's just move on. Let's begin in the city of Chicago, and our coverage of the Chicago Teachers Union continues. Ben, you got a phone message there. The mayor and her Chicago Public Schools team wants teachers back in the classroom.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, good afternoon, Madam Mayor. And our friends in the Chicago Teachers Union are like, global pandemic, no thanks. We're going to continue remote learning and, stay home and save lives, a slogan brought to you by our Chicago mayor. So now we're seeing some teachers who have refused to return being locked out of their remote teaching account. And now to the latest. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Stefano Esposito. Wrapped in blankets and hunched over laptops, a handful of locked-out Chicago Public Schools teachers set up their remote classrooms outside the Belmont-Cragen home of Chicago Board of Education President Miguel DeValle Wednesday morning. The CTU delivered a press conference early in the morning. I have the audio. It's live from DeValle's house early this morning. I'd like to hear it. Here it go.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Quetzali Castro. I am a middle school teacher in Chicago Public Schools. I am here with fellow members today, this morning, in front of Del Valle's house to continue bringing attention and adding on the pressure to the alder people of Chicago, to the mayor, to Dr. Jackson about this unsafe reopening plan of CPS. Not to mention, we now have teachers that have been locked out of their accounts for choosing to stay safe and stay at home, which is also a directive of the mayor to the public. We are here today to continue our teaching. Locked out or not, we want to teach, and we want to teach in a safe manner.
Wow. Yes, this is pretty predictable when the Board of Education, the Chicago Public Schools, and Mayor Lori Lightfoot essentially tells teachers, shut up and get in that classroom in the middle of a pandemic. By the way, I have to say, the Chicago Tribune, a little shout out to the Tribune. Usually I'm very critical of their editorial board, justifiably so, and of Johnny Cass, who is so far right-wing. There is no truth to the rumor, none whatsoever, that Johnny was wearing the Viking helmet at the Capitol, okay? I just made that up. Anyway, but their coverage was actually sort of sympathetic to the teachers, I thought, today. I was really surprised. I read it. I'm like, this is not my father's Tribune. This is not the Tribune that I grew up reading and hating. They were sympathetic to him. And they were just sort of pointing out the obvious, something that we mentioned yesterday. And it really, I think we'll mention this every single day as this goes on. That kind of undercuts your notion, Madam Mayor and Janice Jackson, that you're reopening the schools because you really think children need that education, that you're really doing this for the poorest kids in the city of Chicago who are falling every day further and further behind their wealthier peers, counterparts. You really kind of undercut that message when you lock teachers out of their accounts so that they can't do remote learning. I mean, what about the kids who've decided, or their parents have decided, that they don't want them to go back to the classroom? Who's teaching them? Now, there's no truth to the rumor, though this rumor has been spread around, that Dennis is doing this remote learning. No truth to that rumor whatsoever. I can tell you right now that Dr. D has not left his apartment in 6 months, except for an occasional excursion to Alton. So he's not teaching it. Johnny Cass is not teaching them. The editorial board of the Chicago Tribune is not. We don't know who's teaching them. And it was very unclear that the article tried to pin that down. If the teachers can't get access to their accounts to teach their kids, then who's teaching them? And I'm wondering, why would you do that? Why would you lock the teachers out of their accounts so they can't teach their kids? Now you can say, well, Ben, it's because for financial reasons. We don't want to have to pay the teachers. Well, I mean, that could be a whole other issue that you deal with after the fact. You know, how much the teachers get paid. We discussed this yesterday, I want to say, or the day before. I can't remember. Losing track of time. Maybe you dock the teachers' pay if they don't teach in the classroom as well as online. Maybe that's your position. The point is, the teachers were making a good faith effort to do what they do, and that's teach. They don't believe with you. They don't agree with you that it's safe to go back to the classroom, but they still want to teach. And you lock them out of their computers? Makes no sense. If you really care about the kids, why would you deny them access to the teachers that you think they need to learn from? Very confusing. If I didn't know any better, I say that this was just a way, Well, the Tribune headline kind of sums it up, D. And I will now read from the Tribune headline. CPS tries to teach bulky educators a hard lesson. Pay withheld, access to portal cut for those wary of in-person class. Yeah, they're trying to teach the teachers a lesson. They're sending a message. This has nothing to do with educating children. This has nothing to do with closing the gap between those students who are suffering the consequences of inequity in our society, inequity that's existed for years and years and years, and the Board of Ed has never done anything about it. No, this has to do with sending a message to recalcitrant teachers and the Chicago Teachers Union, mostly the Chicago Teachers Union, that they will not be tolerated, that their disobedience will not be tolerated, and that in the city of Chicago, the mayor calls the shots and the teachers fall in line. I would say it's kind of a union busting move, to tell you the truth. It's got nothing to do with education, that's for sure. And it's how far we've fallen. It really is. It's I don't know, second thought, maybe it's just a continuation of the policy that Rahm established. But D, I would say that absolutely, when you keep teachers from teaching in the name of helping students learn, that seems like a bit of a contradiction to me, D. Similarly, ordering teachers to go back to school, ordering kids to go back to school in the middle of a pandemic, when you're pointing out that vaccines are still not coming to Chicago, and it's a very dire situation for everyone. That's a bit of a contradiction as well. A lot of mixed messages out there, D. A lot of mixed messages.
The group of teachers early this morning also knocked on the Chicago Board of Education president's door. But, Ben, there was no answer. Surprise, surprise. No one answered.
Oh, at Miguel Devaya's house?
Yeah.
I remember the last time they did the protest outside of Miguel Devaya's house, and he actually came out, which I thought was kind of cool. He chatted with them or whatever. Miguel Devaya, former state senator, going back to 1980s. Dennis remembers this, 1986.
Yep.
Miguel Devaya stunned the Chicago political world when he defeated the incumbent Edward Nedza, a good friend of Dennis's from back in the 80s. And
all of that is true.
Just throw this out to make sure he's listening. In those days, Miguel Devaya was very much a reformer and an independent, closely allied with Harold Washington. And he went down to the state Senate, and I thought had an admirable career as a proponent of good government legislation. One of the more, everybody viewed him as an honest legislator who stood up for the right things. Then he ran for mayor. Want to say, before he ran for mayor, he resigned from the state Senate and became Mayor Daley's city clerk. As part of that dream ticket that Mayor Daley put together in 2006, 2007. And I always thought at the time, this is ancient political history, that Mayor Daley, shrewd move by Mayor Daley, shrewd operative Mayor Daley was, that you bring Miguel del Valle on to the ticket. It undercut Luis Gutierrez, the Congressman Luis Gutierrez, who was thinking of running against Daley for mayor back in 2007. So del Valle showed that, for a good government reformer, he knew how to play the game. He ran for mayor in 2011 against Rahm. I voted for him. Yes, I did. I voted for him, Dave. And then he largely disappeared from public life, but came back when Lori Lightfoot named him as president of the school board. Now he's in this uncomfortable position because school board appointees are generally expected to do whatever the mayor says. That's kind of like why they put you on the school board. You don't question the mayor. You don't embarrass the mayor. That gets us into a lot of trouble when they rubber stamp some of the dumber ideas that the mayors come up with. But that's generally how the game is played in Chicago. So now I'm like, look, if you had told me, D, back in 1987 that we would have a moment in 2021 where activists and teacher union members would be protesting outside of Miguel del Valle's house because he was siding with an all-powerful mayor against the union, I would have had a hard time believing that. But things change. People go through evolutions in their life and transformations in their life. So that's where we are right now. Miguel del Valle is the subject of a protest from the Chicago Teachers Union.
Yeah, everybody goes through phases and changes. Like that one time you wore Birkenstocks every single day. Remember? Birkenstocks, I think they're called that.
I'm not even sure how to respond to that. I think I actually do have. Man, who is calling me? What, do they think I got nothing to do right now?
Oh, this is great podcasting content here. Time now for Who is Calling Me on the Ben Joravsky Show.
He goes, sorry, he called by accident. Oops. Anyway, the Birkenstock, those are sandals, and I think I do have them. Yeah. I'm not really proud of that.
Of course you do. All right. Moving on. Quite a bit of statewide news to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Now,
oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I've been saying this for about a week now. It started as a joke, but now I'm really starting to wonder. Hey, Illinois Republican Representative Adam Kinzinger. Have you been smoking that legal reefer? Are you finding your inner lefty? Representative Adam Kinzinger said Tuesday he will vote to impeach President Donald Trump, saying there is, quote, no doubt in my mind that the President of the United States broke his oath of office and incited the January 6th insurrection that left 5 dead. Kinzinger, who represents a district south of Chicago, earlier called for the 25th Amendment to be invoked to remove Trump from office. What's that?
North of Chicago.
Oh. Well, it says here in the Sun-Times south of Chicago. So I don't know.
Is it that long that it extends also south of Chicago? I would look it up on my computer right now.
Frank!
I got a boomer fear that if I push the wrong button, the whole thing crashes.
Yes.
But that's the 16th Congressional District. Heidi Henry, Murray Brio, the Heartland Mamas, and Danny B. And that's a district that goes so far north that it touches the border of Wisconsin. So there may be a portion, it's a long, narrow strip. They do all this for gerrymandering purposes. There may be a piece of it that actually falls south of some part of Chicago. I don't have a copy of the map in my mind, but whatever. You know what? I apologize for interrupting your flow.
All right, geography nerd, let's move on here. Kinzinger earlier called for the 25th Amendment to be invoked to remove Trump from office. Kinzinger was the only Republican to vote with Democrats on a resolution calling Vice President Mike Pence to invoke the 25th. Kinzinger joins a group of no one listening's favorite, Representative Liz Cheney, the number 3 Republican in House leadership, Representative John Katko of New York, Representative Fred Upton, Republican of Michigan, and Representative Jamie Herrera of Washington. In announcing they will join with Democrats to support the article of impeachment, the House is expected to debate and pass Wednesday with a week left to Trump's term.
Yeah. As we speak, the House of Representatives having that debate. Monroe will be coming on shortly. We'll be discussing it at length. And from what I heard, the early portions of the debate, Republicans, as I said at the outset, were sticking with the line that that was just Donnie being Donnie. Come on. Give him some slack, huh? And I thought you believed in unity. Unity. It's funny. They're trotting out unity. I didn't hear one word about unity from the Republicans for 4 years. Donnie was bashing the hell out of Democrats, and Republicans were picking it up. Everybody was a socialist, a radical, a lefty, commie. I mean, you should hear what Congresswoman Mary Miller has to say about the opposition, and her husband Chris Miller, what they state representative from Southern Illinois, what they have to say. Really, Southern Illinois, not like fake Southern Illinois. It's funny that Chicagoans, man. I've said this before. I'll say it again. And who am I? Because I am so geographically challenged. But everything that's not in Chicago or Cook County is downstate, even if it's upstate. Up's downstate. Okay, if you say so. It's downstate. Anyway, where was I? Oh yes. Adam Kinzinger. All right, Heidi, Henry, if you're listening, I know he's not in any way a progressive. And I really realize and appreciate that so many great activists. Neil Muhammad was running, good friend of the show, to unseat Adam Kinzinger. And so many great Democratic activists from the 16th Congressional District have put their neck on the line, worked really hard to unseat Adam Kinzinger. And so they get irritated at me when I say anything remotely nice about him. But as much as I appreciate their position and as much as I respect the hard work that they've done, and as much as I'm a fan of them, I got to say, this guy's been an ally in this fight. And I just feel as though like this fight against Donald Trump and Trumpism is perhaps the most serious political fight of my lifetime. Would I say that? I think I would go there. And I'm an old guy. I got a lot of lifetime.
I was going to say, it's a bold statement. You are very old.
So, we need every ally we can find. And there's not many of them. If you listen to that debate, in quotes, at the House of Representatives right now, you will see one Republican after another stand up and defend Donnie, more or less. It's this Donnie being Donnie. He didn't want him to charge the White House. It's just funny how stuff happens every now and then. They're trying to figure out what position they could take so they could avoid alienating MAGA. I'll point this out. Donald Trump, MAGA controls the Republican Party, and Donald Trump controls MAGA, and they're still loyal to him. That's 40%, 35 to 40% of the voting population right there. So if you're a Republican congressman in a district that's gerrymandered to guaranteed your reelection, that's guaranteed to be run by Republicans, guess what? Your political future is going to be determined by MAGA lovers. MAGA man and woman will be determining your future. So, you know what? I got this book, Profiles in Courage. I'm going to show it to Dennis. I found this book in the attic of my parents' house. I was cleaning out. It was written many years ago by John F. Kennedy, former President John F. Kennedy. He actually didn't write it, but he got his name on it. That's a whole other story, D, which I'll go into at a later time. But the whole theme of the book is legislators, congressmen, senators who risked their political careers to do the right thing. And so that phrase, profiles in courage, is one that many representatives take with pride. Many politicians. Richard Ogilvie, former governor of the state of Illinois, was very proud of the fact that he did the right thing where he united with Democrats to push through a state income tax that enabled the state of Illinois to pay its obligations, and he paid for it by being defeated when he ran for re-election in 1972. But he did the right thing. And so that's like a badge of pride. You do the right thing even if you pay the consequences for it. Very few people are willing to do that, particularly in the Republican Party at this moment. And so they show that they were willing to put up with a tyrant, a bully, an inciter of rioting. They were willing to put up with behavior that they would never in a million years tolerate from the Democrats because they were afraid of losing their reelection. Or maybe they actually believed the stuff he was saying, which is even worse. So I got to give a little love to Kinzinger because he has been consistent over the last month in opposing Trump. And so what, 5? Is that right, Dee? Is that what you said, 5? 5 Republicans? There's like, I don't know, 200 of them in the House. It's at 5. Well, you're not going to have to update Kennedy's book, Profiles in Courage, with a chapter on Republicans in 2021. 5 of them. Profiles in non-courage. So I got to give a little shout out to Adam Kinzinger. Maybe it is the reefer. I don't know, D. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Oops. Nothing wrong with a little reefer. Come on, D, you know that.
Yeah, and we got to give a little shout out to Frank on the live stream chat. The Illinois 16 is the southwest suburbs.
That is correct.
The southwest suburbs? Doesn't it go as far north as the state of Wisconsin?
The Illinois 16th is the southwest suburbs.
All right, hold on. Let me look it up.
Yeah, we got nothing going on. Go ahead, look it up.
Yeah. All right, hold on. 16th Congressional District, Illinois. Nope, Florida. Oops. Sorry.
Okay, we are moving on.
Oops. Sorry about that. And I wrote 26. I didn't even write 16.
Guys, he's getting there with that smartphone. He's getting there with that iPhone, all right?
Here we go. Hold on.
Oh.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Goes all the you know what? It goes around the city of Chicago. So technically you could say, this is one case where we're both right. Okay? Because it's both north of Chicago and south of Chicago. So we're both right. How about that? Everyone's happy. Unity on the Ben Joravsky Show. The Sun-Times was right, and I was right, D. How about that, huh? Sometimes it's like, don't you dare correct us. Ever.
So for those still listening, now to things getting done in 2021. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. The headline reads, Senate advances Black Caucus's legislation bill on social equity in cannabis licensing. The Illinois Senate advanced bills focused on improving social equity in the state's cannabis licensing process and another that could end cash bail early Wednesday, hours before new members are sworn in. In a session that went well into the early morning, the Senate passed a follow-up to legislation from 2019 aimed at making the social equity commitment in the state's cannabis licensing program better. The bill creates 2 systems for the licensing lottery, tiered and qualified, to determine who might receive a dispensary license. The legislation would also create a new lottery for 75 additional adult-use cannabis dispensary licenses for those in the first round who scored high, but no pun intended there, but didn't receive one of the first 75 licenses.
Yeah, I have to read this legislation a little more carefully. I'm just hearing this for the first time, D. We talk about this all, many instances. Just recently with Al Harrington. I urge everybody to check that interview out. Al Harrington, former NBA basketball player, is now getting into the cannabis business. He calls himself the king of cannabis. Yes, Illinois was so proud of itself for having passed a cannabis legalization bill. What was it, 2019? And they were so excited when it became legal at the start of this year. And even now, they're anticipating spending the money. The city of Chicago is borrowing against future proceeds. I think cannabis was considered an essential business. Isn't that right, Dee? So they didn't have to shut down at the height of the pandemic, which I should stop saying at the height of the pandemic like it's past. Although it's funny that, it's easy to think that the height is gone because the schools just opened in Chicago. Get back in that classroom. But they fell on her face, and a program that was intended, at least one level, to undo the inequities and the harm of the war on drugs, somehow or other has perpetuated the very inequities that we rail against. No black people got any of the licenses. So now they're trying to figure out how to get out of that horrific situation. And so I'll have to sift through that and read that, D, to see if actually it will result in any dispensaries being turned over to black people. But it seems as though they're trying to rectify a bad deal. So good for them, right, D?
Yeah. And finally, before this fake bus bit, Ben, I don't know if you knew this or not, but 2020 weather in Illinois was warmer and wetter than usual.
One started the year in mid-January, where area between Vandalia and Effingham received over 5 inches of rain in a 2-day period. And that's pretty heavy rainfall for any time of the year, let alone in January. And that caused some pretty significant flooding along the Kaskaskia River.
Trent, what about the city of Chicago?
The city of Chicago recorded its wettest May on record, which broke the previous record, which was set in 2019, which broke the previous record, which was set in 2018. So this year was the third consecutive year that they recorded their wettest May on record for the city.
Interesting.
It's good stuff. A lot of people are into the weather, D. You get all your news you need in the weather report. Don't forget that. By the way, did he say May? The month of May? Is that how old that was? The month of May? Did he say? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
May was a wet month in the city of Chicago. Who knows? I forgot all about May.
Yeah, shout out to you listening. Boy, that was boring. All right. Here we go. Mike Madigan, step on down and get under this bus. The latest updates on the Illinois speaker gig. Recap. Long time speaker Mike Madigan announced that he will suspend his campaign for speaker if someone else can acquire the number of votes needed to be the next speaker. That number is 60. On Monday, it looked like State Rep Ann Williams would be the one to take the charge for 60, but hold that thought. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, and Rachel, boy, I am earning my paycheck this week hinting. State Rep Emanuel Chris Welch was selected by his Democratic colleagues to become the next Speaker of the Illinois House today, moving the Hillside legislator one step closer to succeeding the longest-serving State House Speaker in U.S. history. Welch secured 69 votes in a second meeting of the House Democratic Caucus this morning. Sources in the room told the Chicago Sun-Times. That's only 4 short of the entire 73-member Democratic caucus. The vote came just minutes before the scheduled swearing-in of newly elected members of the General Assembly, when the House will vote for a successor to Speaker Mike Madigan. Regarded as a Madigan loyalist, Welch, 49 years old, was first sworn into the House in 2013 and will start his 5th term later Wednesday. He would be the 70th Speaker of the Illinois House and the first black person to hold the position. Welch, the leading contender for the top House leadership spot, fell 5 votes short earlier Wednesday morning of the 60 needed from his Democratic colleagues to get the job. Welch received 55, while 17 people voted present as the House Democratic Caucus tried to determine who they want to succeed Michael Madigan.
All right, a lot to unpack here. The quote you said, Welch regarded as a loyalist, and that's had a smile when I heard that. That's newspapers being very cautious. Chris Welch is very much a Michael Madigan loyalist. Chris Welch got as far as he got in the legislature because he's a pretty shrewd political operator, number one. And number two, he's a loyalist to Michael Joseph Madigan. Now, personally, I do not think that's a bad thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with being a loyalist to Michael Joseph Madigan. Michael Madigan's the most powerful Democrat in the state of Illinois. Michael Madigan knows how to play the game. Michael Madigan is the state of Illinois what Mitch McConnell is for Republicans in the Senate. I don't hear Republicans crying about Mitch McConnell. I don't hear Jim Durkin weeping about Mitch McConnell. Where's Darren Bailey talking about Mitch McConnell? No. They only want smart, crafty wizards of the legislative process to work on the behalf of the Republicans. And they're always trying to get the Democrats into putting someone like me in charge. Yeah, put Ben in charge. Man, they would tie me in knots. I wouldn't know how to play the game. So when the Democrats have someone who really knows how to play the game, like Michael Joseph Madigan, The Republicans invest, I don't know, how many years has it been? 8 years of commercials, pounding him to turn the public's opinion against him. Because what? He's a master of the legislative process. Oh, it can't have that with a Democrat. Only Republicans are allowed to do that, like the Republicans in Wisconsin and the Republicans in Michigan and the Republicans in the Senate with Mitch McConnell. So a lot of hypocrisy coming out of the Republicans. They're really mad whenever they find a Democrat that plays the game as well and as slick as they do. That said, Michael Joseph Madigan went way too far, had that property tax business going. So while he's overseeing the laws that affect how much we pay in taxes, he's getting tax breaks for all kinds of wealthy property owners to come to his firm. Hey, come on, Michael Joseph Madigan. You didn't have to run a property tax business. That was an embarrassment. And then secondly, it turns out he looked the other way when Elena Hampton released evidence that she was sexually harassed by other operatives in Michael Madigan's machine. He eventually made moves in that front after the story broke, but he was very slow to come to that. And then, of course, the one we've been talking about forever, the Commonwealth Edison scandal, where Commonwealth Edison, in an attempt to win curry favor with Michael Madigan, put his cronies into do-nothing jobs and doled out contracts to his cronies. Really embarrassing. Gave the Republicans ammunition to use against Madigan. So it's about time that the Democrats cut the cord. And my advice to the Democrats was to go with Chris Welch, and have Madigan step down and be like his Tex Winter on the bench, the old pro advising him. Maybe that's where they'll head off. But look, guys, the reason the Republicans can't stand Chris Welch is that he's probably going to prove to be a shrewd political operator. I remember he used to come on the show, D. He's one of those guys who plays his cards very close to his vest. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not like going to just go off on tangents. So I got my guy. I mean, everybody know I love guests who can talk. They go off on tangents. They volunteer their view of the world outside of just the very specific question I'm asking. They're fun to talk to. They're enlightening. And they're powerful and passionate. Chris Welch actually does remind me of Madigan, except unlike Madigan, he is in the 21st century. He's got a cell phone. He can text. He's got a social media page, always featuring bits about his family dancing and that kind of thing. So a 21st century version of Michael Madigan. So I got no problem with that, D. That's how the game is played. Do you want an incompetent person running the state house? No, the Republicans want that out of the Democrats so that they can, outmaneuver them? Republicans want a guy like Mitch McConnell who whispers to the New York Times through backdoor channels that he's not against impeachment and then delays an impeachment process so that Chuck Schumer and Joe Biden have to worry about it. That's a political animal, plays the game. And it doesn't matter if he's allowing Donald Trump to get away with inciting insurrection against the government. It doesn't matter if he's letting Donald Trump get away with putting everyone's life in danger by turning MAGA on the Capitol with their hockey sticks that they hit cops over the heads with. No, it's a master of the process. The Republicans, when they see it, they go, oh, man, that's how you play the game. But they don't want it. When Madigan does it, it's unfair. Remember Boast? The congressman, he's now a congressman. He got promoted for this stunt. Threw his papers in the air, protesting Madigan. Now he's in Congress. I don't hear him say one word about Mitch McConnell, the games he plays. No, because you want smart, capable wheelers and dealers running the game for you.
Wait, you talking about this guy?
I'm sick of it. Every year we give power to one person.
Yeah, that was cool. I like that.
Yeah, Mike Boast. Now he's a congressman. I think he was one, before I say this, I believe he was one who voted to urge the House not to count the electoral votes. I believe he was one of those. Oh, gosh, I shouldn't have said that. Frank, look that one up. I know Mary Miller was one of the people who voted that way, but I'm pretty sure Mike Bose was as well. Anyway, maybe not. I don't know. I have to double check that. The point is, and I love it. I think it's kind of funny that Republicans are trying to make a big deal out of the fact that Chris Welch is regarded as a Madigan loyalist. Of course he is. All the Democrats, with the exception of the 19, are Madigan loyalists. And that the 19 were Madigan loyalists until the Commonwealth Edison indictment. Remember? They were all for Madigan. I can't think of anybody who wasn't for Madigan before the Commonwealth Edison indictments came down. So you can make that argument about any of them, even Will Guzzardi. Could you imagine if Will Guzzardi was the speaker, what the Republicans would be saying?
Oh, my God. To quote Wilco, I don't know any songs I would have done a quote there. But just quoting Wilco every speech.
Do you have any more updates about this? Because I'm about to go on another riff.
Well, I was going to say, we're talking about the Madigan ally deal here, but there's new allegations surfacing from the Chicago Tribune about Mr. Welch as well.
That's what I was. You read the allegations. That's where I was going to go. Go ahead, dude.
No, it's all you, buddy.
Well, the Chicago Tribune came out with this. There was a police report from 2002 where Chris Welch's old girlfriend, no longer his girlfriend, accused him of grabbing her by the hair and slamming her head against, I think it was a table. I don't have it in front of me, but it's a pretty horrific scene that they was planted in my brain when I read the story. It's very upsetting. It happened in 2002. The woman dropped charges. She called the police and dropped the charges. Chris Welch says that they were having a fight and that he never did anything like that. Instead, she grabbed him. So it's a very troubling image. Now, already, I'm a little disappointed that, Chris Welch is not dealing with this more forcefully. Again, he's talking through some spokespeople. This is very Madigan-esque. You know what I mean? That's how Michael Joseph did it. He let Steve Brown do all the talking, and he hid in the back rooms. So it's a very troubling allegation. A police report that emerged. Chris Welch is saying that it's the work of Republican political operatives. I'll bet you anything that it was Republican political operatives who got a hold of that police report. That's how the game was played. If it was the other way around, Democrats would be doing the same thing. So let's not kid ourselves. You know, if there was this troubling police report having to do with any Republican in the House, Democrats would put it out there. And that gets Chris Welch off to a stumbling start as he has to deal and confront this issue. Now, this story broke. I read it in the Tribune, so I read it in today's Tribune that was delivered at my house. So that means it was on the internet last night, and it was still 69 votes. Did you say? Mm-hmm. So the overwhelming number of Democrats, women included, voted for him. So it'll be interesting to see how all of them justify their vote. But, it's a stumble out of the gate. And Republicans are already picking up on it. So, look, I've made this accusation in the past. Republicans believe that there should be an investigation of any allegation of sexual harassment so long as the allegation is directed against a Democrat. In the case of Republicans, come on. That's just Donnie being Donnie. So we'll see where this goes, D. This story is, like I said, just breaking. And we'll see if Chris Welch deals with it more forcefully than he's dealt with it so far.
All right. Yeah, he did get enough votes, and we're going to have to ask him about that event. Looks like he's finally off his phone. He's waiting outside the bus here. Ben, watch your feet. Let's welcome Mr. Welch onto the bus, and let's get this show on the road. Hey, come on. Hope you got a CDL to drive this thing, buddy. Get on this bus, Chris Welch. Wait. Oh, I need you to pay, by the way. Okay. Thank you very much.
By the way, can we keep the bus routine going for a while? I really like it.
Well, today was kind of a shit show on it, but we'll see how the next one works. All right. And so here we are. Chris Welch. He is going to be running this bus here.
That is correct.
Okay. Easy on the horn there, Mr. Welch. All right. Well, I guess let's fire this bad boy up. All right. Okay. Come on. Pump the brakes, Welch. Pump it. Come on. There we go. All right. The show is on the road. The bus is on. And Chris Welch is at the wheel.
Yeah, like I said, folks, I don't believe. Well, I don't believe this is going to be a moment of crisis for the Democratic Party with Chris Welch running things as opposed to Michael Madigan. And Eric Zorn wrote a very interesting column, something I wouldn't have expected to ever read in the Chicago Tribune. But Eric's not afraid to go in a little different direction than most of the other columnists at the Tribune. Johnny Cass, I'm thinking of, and the editorial writers. Eric's more liberal. And he wrote a column where he interviewed Jamie Andrade, good friend of the show, came on the show, said much of the same things he told Eric in the column today, and that is Democrats will rue the day that they got rid of Madigan, that he was a very capable leader, and then Eric quoted Hamilton. And I was like, oh my God, great minds think alike, because I just saw Hamilton. But he quoted a portion of Hamilton where King George III of England sings to the breakaway colonists, and I'm quoting, "What comes next? You've been freed. Do you know how hard it is to lead? Oceans rise, empires fall. It's much harder when it's all your call." And yes, indeed, the Democrats, there's always been that uncertainty that Democrats would talk about. Jamie Andrade talked about it openly on the show, that without Madigan, without his wizardry, without his mastery of the legislative process, the Democrats will suffer. And they won't be able to get the map through. That's their big concern, this legislative map that's just ahead of us. And I don't think it's that dire. I think that there's enough shrewd operators in the legislature to get maps through. So I don't think it'll be as dire as Jamie Andrade predicted in Eric Zorn's column. So that's the great concern that Democrats have without their fearless leader. But here's the thing about Madigan, man. Madigan's moved to the left over the last 4 years. So Rich Miller had a great column about this. He's moved to the left over the last 4 years. But back in the day, he used that mastery of the legislative process to bury a lot of progressive legislation. To bury things like an elected school board, to bury in Chicago, to bury things like an increase in the minimum wage. So there's a lot of progressive legislation that Madigan. But I remember the gay marriage bill. He didn't think it was. Remember that one a few years back? He didn't think it was time to come out with that. So he buried it. I don't know what his ultimate goal was, but that was the maestro. He decided. So, yes, he's a master of the process, but it didn't always work so well for progressives. So, it's like Eric is suggesting in his column today, a good column, I urge everybody to check it out, a little moment of uncertainty when there's a new leader, but I don't think it's as dire as King George would predict.
All right, so at the moment, it looks like Chris Welch will be taking the office of Michael Joseph Madigan. And to the big question about all this, how many dirty apple cores is Chris Welch going to find in that office once he gets in there? They're going to be everywhere. This guy's been in for almost 40 years.
Madigan loved apples.
Yes, he did.
He loved those apples.
All right, that's our local news, guys.
Joseph Madigan.
That's our local news. Remember, you can find us at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can always send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And we have a phone number. It's true, 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. We would love to hear from you.
I have my hand in the air.
Oh, yes, Mr. Joravsky.
Thank you, Dr. D, for calling on me. There was one more story I wanted to discuss. It's one of my favorite stories from the last, I'd say 10 years. And it's in my beloved Bright One, Home Delivered as Always, authored by Fran Spielman. Alderman wants sign on Trump Tower to come down. Alderman Gilbert Villegas of the 36th Ward, Mayor Lori. I'm doing my Obama. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, City Council floor leader, plans to introduce an ordinance at the January 27th City Council meeting that would force the issue 7 years after the vanity sign along Chicago's riverfront touched off a clash of giant egos with then Mayor Rahm Emanuel. Well, all right, I don't completely agree with that recitation of history. It's one of my favorite topics, Steve. How in the world did the city of Chicago allow Donnie Trump to place that big old sign, TRUMP, on the front of his tower overlooking the Chicago River? So it's really impossible to go anywhere downtown without seeing that name. Something that Dennis and I used to experience all the time in the old days when we take the Brown line.
Look at that building. That's my building.
We get on the Brown line.
Not your building.
I forget where we got on it. We got it on the western edge of the loop. And it would come around, and the train would be packed, and I'd be reading about the Bulls on my cell phone or doing something like obsessed with some detail. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, as the train made that curve on Lake Street, Dennis would say, quote,
"Look at my building."
There you go, right on time. It's Donald Trump. And I would look up, oh my God, that horrific sign. And I know I'm not alone. 80 to 85% of the city of Chicago voted against Donald Trump in the 2016 election and in this election as well. They can't stand Donald Trump. And it's just like a source of such aggravation that Donald Trump would have his name on that building. And not only that, it's really, we've never had a hearing. I talk all the time about I want to have hearings at the city council level where we take the deep dive and learn like how things happen in Chicago. Like what's just like the timeline. Everybody's obsessively, all the lefties of the world are obsessively putting together a timeline about the insurrection at the Capitol, and I welcome that. And I find myself reading all those timeline stories too. I'd like to see one for Chicago. Like, how did it happen that Trump sign went up there? You know, and I know that the initial approval came under Richard M. Daley's regime. I remember that. But then the final approval came under Rahm, and Donald Trump contributed $50,000 to Mayor Rahm's political campaign. And I don't recall much resistance whatsoever on the part of Mayor Rahm to that sign until after the fact, after it went up and there was outrage. And there was Rahm trying to make himself look to be as anti-Trump as he could. What an outrage it was. What a desecration of the Chicago River. You know, but there's nothing I can do about it, so let's move on with that. I always thought the city's claim of helplessness in this matter was a little disingenuous. Never really believed them. And I certainly, this was my great crusade, never believed that the city should countenance Donald Trump's tax lawyers from going to the Cook County assessor and asking for a tax break. They said, well, the assessments have to be lowered because we can't rent the property. And we're not making as much money off of that building as we expected. So therefore, we should not pay as much in property taxes. It's only fair. That was their argument. And my argument was, it's really hard to claim that you deserve a tax break or a tax break is warranted on the grounds that you can't rent your spaces when you have a sign on the building that so many people find offensive. I believe that sign lends itself to just sort of the disgust that people have for this building and would lead many potential renters not to want to go anywhere near your building. So you can't have it two ways. So take the sign off. If you want the tax break, take the sign down. That was my argument. And of course, it didn't go anywhere. But here we are. What is it now? 6 years later after the sign was put up. I remember that when that sign went up, there was a big fight between Blair Kamen, excellent architectural writer for the Chicago Tribune, and Donald Trump. They went at it. Kamen said it was a desecration to have that sign on that building. Donald Trump argued against him. Shout out to Blair Kamen. He's moving on. He's leaving the Tribune. But I agreed with Kamen back in 2014, and I agree with Villegas right now. Let's get that sign down from that building, and let's do it now. And Villegas says that he has the authority to do so, because you cannot let Trump's name have that prominent position if he is the leader of an insurrection against Congress. So I think that's a very valid point. I would take it down anyway and see in court, Donnie. But that's the argument that Villegas is making. And, Dee, Monroe Anderson's about to join us. When we come back from a break, let's see what Monroe Anderson thinks about that. Maybe he's more liberal, open-minded about this and say, Ben, I've come to really appreciate that Trump sign on that building because it shows how welcoming Chicago is. We'll throw open our arms to anyone, even a tyrant, a dictator, and a blowhard. So we'll see if Monroe Anderson champions Donald Trump's sign, Dee, when we return from this break.
Monroe Anderson coming up. In the meantime, here is our interview with Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor. Go check this out. It's available at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor and Ben Joravsky.
They got beat up and killed and arrested.
So, again, going back to my analogy, just imagine if a black political leader 2-3 weeks out had been saying, January 6th is the day. January 6th is the day.
They'd have stayed at work. They wouldn't have left chambers until that person was impeached. Period. Ain't no question in my mind. No question in my mind. But we can't get justice for the wrongdoing that happens to people of color all of the time. But for him, he gets the pass.
And we're stuck with the bill.
Because we're going to pay in lawsuits. We're going to pay in cleanup. We're going to pay in insurance. The American people are going to pay for what has happened. And Donald Trump will be on his plane in his house overseas somewhere collecting all that illegal money he done stole.
Yeah, the bill I was actually thinking about was a psychic bill. Like, not just you're
this whole year has made us all need therapy. I don't care what anybody says.
It's funny because it was like everybody was like, I can't wait for 2020 to be over. I can't wait for, I heard that.
I don't know. It's like it ain't getting 2020 and 2021 had a talk. And nobody supervised that talk. Because this shit, we 7 days into the new year and this is what we got. No,
you touched on something. And there are many moments in that scene yesterday stick in my mind. But the one that you touched on really, where that security guard, they're chasing him up the stairs. He's got a baton. That's all he's got.
He's got a gun and he got pepper spray and he uses none of it, which don't get me wrong. Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor / Jeanette B. Taylor / JT is not condoning violence. But let that have been some different folks. That's just because people of color are seen as a threat. That's what it is. That's just, let's call it what it is.
Wait, did he have a gun?
And that's all you get, everybody. Go download the rest of it, chicagoreader.com or wherever else you download your favorite podcast. Hour number 2, let's go. The Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, the Chicago Federation of Labor, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
Every Wednesday, Monroe Anderson joins us for discussion of politics. Trump is what we called it. He was just here. Now he left. I don't know where he went.
Monroe! Where'd you go?
Come back, Monroe.
Oh, boy, is it something we said?
It's all forgiven. I think he's sick of those Tai Chi jokes. There he is. He's back. Monroe Anderson was with us. Then he left. He left the stage. He's like Elvis has left the building, but now he's returned. Monroe, I thought it was you were sick of those. You were sick of those.
It doesn't work.
What's that?
It's in modern technology. It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. All right, let me read your Facebook posting. That'll act as a cheat sheet for what we're going to discuss. It's been a long time coming, but finally, Trump is being recognized as the pariah he has justly earned. The banking community, corporate America, the golf circuit, and New York City have all cut ties with him. And Democrats are in the process of indicting him for a second time. Is making Trump the first president to be impeached a second time a good idea? Will it hurt President Biden's first months in office? Will it further divide America? That's what we'll be talking about on the Ben Joravsky Show. All good and important topics, and we'll get to them all. Monroe, before we get into this, I just have to share this headline, today's New York Times. I laughed when I saw this headline, Monroe. Here's the headline. GOP leaders begin to break with Trump. Begin to break with Trump. It's like, we're not quite sure we're ready to go out on a limb there now. The guy just decided it's insurrection. They're beginning to break with Trump. It's a slow process, Monroe, very slow process. But they're starting to begin. And that doesn't look very promising from that early debate in the House. But before we do that, let's just go back in time.
They have six Republicans who are going to vote for impeachment.
They've announced that already. I thought it was 5. Who is the 6th?
I just saw a crawl saying as much. They didn't name them, but they said 6 Republicans are going to vote for the impeachment.
All right. Well, that's 6. That's one more than the 5 I thought they had. Let's just go back for a moment.
More than last time.
Yes, 6 more than last time. Wow, not one Republican, is that correct? Am I right on that? Not one voted for impeachment for the Ukrainian shakedown deal?
Not one.
We've gone from...
In the House, you had Mitt in the Senate. Mitt Romney.
Yeah, no, I know. No congressman voting for impeachment in the House. All right. It was 1 week ago that I learned of the insurrection by looking at the disbelief and fear in your eyes as we were doing this show. You apparently have a TV not far from where we're having this conversation. You were watching the Marauders overtake the White House, chase the security guard down the hallway.
It wasn't fear. It was wonderment. Because they have been saying... I knew there was going to be violence. There have been reports that there were going to be violence, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was going to be on the streets. I didn't realize it was going to be actually in the U.S. Capitol. And that's what blew my mind. I mean, it was just incredible. And the visuals of it, these guys with the battering ram and climbing and hanging a Trump sign where an American flag used to be. I mean, a Trump flag. It was total
do you have any theories, reigning theories, as to how the insurrectionists got as far as they did? Do you think it was just oversight on the part of the people who were charged with the responsibility of guarding the Capitol, or do you think there was something more subversive going on, some kind of conspiracy? What's your thoughts?
They wore that protective shield, the color of their skin. There's a bunch of white people. Had that been Black Lives Matter, it would have been like at the carnival when they have the dials up in the shooting gallery, the ducks in the shooting gallery, so you can win a prize. They've been shooting black people coming and going. But this was like, oh well, it's black. Well, and there are other theories also. There are reports that some of the congressmen, they haven't been named yet, but were actually the day before taking some of the white nationalists and on a tour of the Capitol building. So they know where everything was. And that makes a certain amount of sense because Clyburn's office, he has a second office that he operates out of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in some place that nobody knows about. In fact, people who work there, some of his colleagues have trouble finding his office. They were able to find that. They're also able to find Pelosi's office, which is it's not a roadmap to it. It's not on the visitor schedule.
Mm-hmm.
If you do this and do that. And one other thing, the guest you just had on, who talked about the black guard not shooting anybody.
Jeanette Taylor, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I came in late, so I didn't hear her name. But the situation there was, this guy was a hero. What he did, he just had a rod. I guess it has electricity in it or something. I don't know. He had some sort of rod, and he had his gun. But what he did was he drew the crowd away from the Capitol building, the meeting in the Capitol building, whatever their meeting room was called. He distracted them because he ran up the stairs and he looked over there, and not only the room, the doors were open and they were meeting there, the congressman.
Mm-hmm.
And so what he did was he shoved the guy with the QAnon shirt on. He shoved him, and the guy started chasing him, and he drew him away and then called for help, back up. But had he not done that, they would have headed straight into the meeting.
Yeah.
And we'd be doing stories about X amount of congressmen dead.
Yeah. No, that was that moment. That was the last way I remember so clearly. Dennis watching that with disbelief while I was on the air live and saying, "Oh my God, they're chasing a security guard or a police officer." I can't remember which. And
he's a cop.
Yeah,
a cop, police.
Yeah, no, I think he should be commended for what he did and the restraint he showed and the smarts he showed. He picked up, I remember he picked up that baton as he was coming up the stairs. The mob was coming at him, and he picked up the baton that happened to be lying there, and he used it, just waved it in the air, and that kept him at bay long enough.
Right.
Monroe, I touched on this at the start of the show. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Among the crowd, there was an Olympic gold medalist, a swimmer. Very bizarre. Old boy is 6'6", very recognizable, not wearing a mask because, of course, he's MAGA, doesn't believe that the COVID is real, so why wear a mask? And he's wearing his Olympic jacket. I mean, just a level of what? Of just, I don't know, arrogance embodied by that?
It was they were on a mission from God. Like in the Blues Brothers movie, they were on a mission, and God has told them that Trump is our leader, and he's meant to be there, and he's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, why hide your identity?
Yeah.
And then, also you had some Proud Boys and some Boogaloo Boys among the group who were a little more active than your average protester. And I'm not sure some of the people who were in the mob expected it to be as violent as it turned out to be.
Well,
and you have mob mentality.
Yeah.
100 years ago, when they were lynching a black man or a Jew or something, the crowd would get all worked up, and it was entertainment for them. They bring their children and have a picnic while they were watching the lynching. And so that mob mentality was at play also.
Yeah, and as I pointed out, Many of the insurrectionists are feeling some repercussion. They've either been arrested, they've charged, they've lost jobs,
Right.
but suspended.
Right.
Suddenly they're realizing that a lot of people are really upset with them. Donald Trump, of course, is a whole other matter, and that gets to the questions that you raised on your Facebook page. Is it, prudent for Democrats to impeach him? Should they just let it go? In the name of unity, aim of getting eliminating any distractions. This is Lori Lightfoot's position. And any distractions from the Senate so Joe Biden can get his legislation through or his appointees through. Your thoughts on this?
I think they should impeach him. I think they are duty bound to impeach him. Because if you can't be, as president, if you can't be impeached for inciting a mob to take siege on the U.S. Capitol building, look for the vice president to hang him, look for the Speaker of the House to assassinate, then when does it go into play? Would Trump have had to have done it himself before it was worthy of impeachment? And secondly, I understand the concern about being preoccupied with the impeachment and therefore not getting the things Biden wants done in the first 100 days. However, I think that that's the conditioning of Democrats, where they're always, oh dear, we're not going to be able to do this, and we're so nervous about doing that. They are in charge. They're going to have the Senate. They have the House. They have the White House. If they can't get anything done with that, then they don't need to be there either. We need two new parties in America.
I'm with you. The woe is me Democrats have got to go. And it's funny. I mean, I don't want to bring in Springfield news with Washington, but there is a connection. Michael Madigan, the master of the legislative process, is out. Chris Welch, this news broke as a show, early part of the show. Chris Welch is in, a state representative from the western suburbs. And the Democrats are concerned because Madigan plays the game like McConnell plays the game. And so if we don't have our maestro in there, they will have an advantage. And it's true. Madigan does play hardball.
Right.
He makes you come to him every step of the way. Now,
kiss the ring.
Yes, kiss his ring.
Yeah, right.
Now, generally, it's all about Madigan doing that to accumulate more power for Madigan, and not really about progressive legislation. I understand all that, but he is the maestro and the master. Now we're watching Republicans play the game. I never hear Republicans complain about their maestros and masters and Mitch McConnell. And let's just bring it here. They're going to make the Democrats wear this. Mike Pence, vice president, could have asked that the cabinet vote to remove Trump on the basis of the 25th Amendment. Wimped out on that one. Mitch McConnell could have held a hearing as soon as the Democrats pass this impeachment.
He still could do it.
But he's already said he's not going to do it.
I know. Although he wants to, see, Mitch is very slick, because what he does by delaying it until an hour after Biden is sworn in, then he can blame the Democrats for doing Trump in, instead of taking the credit himself. So what he is hopeful of is that the Republicans would be upset because the Democrats did Trump in, and therefore, when the next election in 2 years happens, the Republicans will win back the House, and no Republican senators will lose a seat. That's a strategy. I don't think that's going to work. I mean, if the Democrats are bold and tough about what they're doing, none of this. Well, sorry, I stepped on your foot, but you stepped on my foot first. No, I mean they got to go in fighting, headhunting, purging, whatever is necessary to be in charge and get what they want done. Because if they take care of the virus, and if they perform with the vaccines, which will help take care of the virus, then the economy will improve. 2 years from now, they'll be flying high, and nobody will care. In fact, Trump will definitely be a pariah by that time. But if they go, oh, well, I'm sorry, but Trump was misbehaving, and so we had to slap his wrist, then it's going to embolden the Republicans more, and they're going to take charge.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I've been thinking a lot about when Nixon stepped down. I did this piece for the Reader where I was recollecting. I talked about how last week I didn't actually see the insurrection. I just saw it in your eyes, and how now I will always have that memory of that moment. That's how I learned about the insurrection. And there's so many, we've accumulated these memories over the years, Monroe, you too, all of us have, of like great moments, scary moments, really significant moments, where we were when they happened. And when I wrote that piece, several people responded by saying they remember where they were when Richard Nixon stepped down. What a great momentous moment that was in American history, 1974, when President Richard Nixon stepped down. And I don't remember where I was in 1974 when Richard Nixon stepped down. I just remember where I was the next day when I read about it. It's kind of weird how memory works. And I remember very clearly reading the Sun-Times article about Richard Nixon stepping down in like disbelief, that this is happening. But Richard Nixon was actually like more, I don't know, noble, if such a word can apply to Richard Nixon, far more than Donald Trump, who will never acknowledge that he did anything wrong.
Right. Now, Nixon was a patriot, and he was more liberal than Clinton or Obama. And he came up with the EPA. He came up with affirmative action. So I mean, it's as bad as he was good compared to Trump.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is Nixon more liberal? Hold on, than Clinton or Obama?
Yes. He came up. Now he changed the course. But initially, he came up. The EPA is a Nixon product. Yeah. Affirmative action was Nixon introduced it. There are some other things that I'm not thinking of yet, but no, initially he had a very liberal for Republican.
Well, the bar is really low, and it just goes to show you how far the Clintons and the Obamas try to take the Democratic Party away from.
It wasn't them. It was that the Republicans were beating the living daylights out of us. When I was in college in the 60s, I can remember when conservative was a dirty word. That it was a rare person you ran into who admitted to being a conservative. And the Republicans turned that all around to where by the time Clinton got in office, being a liberal meant you were a socialist communist or something. And so what he and Gore ended up doing, they were the young lions back then, was they scrambled to the middle and were Southern candidates running for the presidency. And that's how they won it, because anybody more liberal than them wasn't about to win the election.
Yeah. By the way, I urge everybody, if you haven't already, I'm late to this game. I've been watching Mrs. America on Hulu. Really fascinating series and enjoying it immensely. Talks about the ERA, the attempt to pass the Equal Rights Amendment, and Phyllis Schlafly, and how in many ways she was a precursor to the Tea Party and MAGA. Many of the same rhetoric. And Monroe, that rhetoric that you described is still very much a part of the Republican arsenal. It's been that rhetoric that Democrats represent far left, communists, socialists, radical thugs. That's still very much a part of their weaponry.
I still read it every day on my Facebook wall, or when I'm rating other right-wingers' Facebook walls. They talk about socialists and the communists and whatever. And I point out to them that Putin is a former KGB agent who's pulling Trump's strings right now. And of course, that's nothing they can even imagine. And the KGB was so long ago. That's what one guy told me yesterday. Mm-hmm. But I was using ancient history, like now that Putin is a kleptocrat instead of a communist. He's changed his stripes.
No, it's still the same mindset is at play in Putin's mind.
His training on Trump, because he was like trained in psychological warfare. Where you flip somebody. That was his training, and he was an expert at it. And he did it was an easy job, but he did a wonderful job on Donald J. Trump.
All right, so let's discuss the Republicans for a while. GOP leaders begin to break with Trump. Headline in the New York Times made me laugh. When all is said and done, your sense of things, 6 congressmen are going to vote for impeachment at the moment. 6 Republican congressmen. To actually convict Donald Trump of these charges, they'll need at least 17, is my understanding of the math. If the hearing is, if the trial is after Schumer takes control of the Senate, as opposed to now. So, do you think 17 senators, Republican senators, will vote against Trump?
God, I'm blanking on her name. This former senator from Missouri, like McClaskey.
Oh, Claire McCaskill.
McCaskill, yeah.
Yeah.
She said yesterday, she said that she knew of half a dozen senators who more than likely were going to vote for impeachment, and another 8 or 9 who might vote for impeachment.
What a joke. That's still not even 17. I did the math.
Right. I know. No, it's going to be, well, except this is the thing is, Mitch is saying, they're saying now that Mitch is more than 50-50 on voting to impeach Trump. So in other words, it's there's still a chance. We'll see.
Well, we'll have to see. This is a long way for playing out, but based on the early arguments, and why don't you recite those early arguments that the Republicans are making? It seems as though they're trying to concoct some sort of defense.
Their defense now is that, well, a couple of defenses. One is Trump's defense also, where Trump says that they've been after him from the beginning. The Democrats have been after him from day one, and that this is the same witch hunt that they were performing 3 years ago or during the last impeachment. That he's a good president. He's a great, Trump's never good at anything. He's a great president, and they're just going after him. That's his defense. Some of them are repeating that in these hearings right now. The others are saying, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. We need to unite.
Oh, God.
If we impeach Trump, that's going to divide America at a time where we really need to be more united. So don't do it. Those who are slightly critical of Trump are saying, well, impeachment is too much, too far in such a short period of time that we should just censure him and be done with it, and focus on coming together, having a kumbaya moment.
It's so funny. Let's see how much they come together when it comes to confirming Joe Biden's appointees. So what's your response to the Unite argument? What's your response to if we impeach, we divide?
We're already divided. I mean, that would be like if somebody came over from France in 1863 and said, you Americans ought to get together. I don't understand all this business about slavery and being upset about it or anything like that. It's we can't be any more divided than we are, outside of unless Sherman was brought back in a time machine and went through the South again and did his thing. I mean, we can't be anymore. They are right now, the right-wing groups, the Proud Boys, the Boogaloos, the white nationalists, are planning on a civil war. I mean, literally planning on a civil war. By this time next week, we probably will have had more violence. Mm-hmm. And so I can't imagine that these guys who have been hoping and planning for a civil war for the past 10 years or so, if we say, well, we'll just censure Trump and let it go at that, they go, oh, put away your guns, stand down. I mean, it's there.
No, I take very serious their rhetoric, Monroe, and I spent a lot of time this weekend writing a story for the Reader, researching Mary Miller, the congresswoman from Southern Illinois, the woman who said that Hitler was right. Yeah. And I took and not just her, but her husband, who's a state rep, Chris Miller, and who was at the Trump rally, by the way. State representative. Now, I don't believe he went to the Congress, but he was at the rally itself. So their rhetoric is very much that America is at war, and the other side, which would be the Democratic side, represents communism, and socialism, and secularism, and anti-Christianity. That's their...
And perhaps pedophilia and eating babies.
Yes, that too. And so I don't understand if that's your worldview.
Right.
I don't understand how anything the Democrats do could result in unity unless it's utter capitulation to the worldview of Mary Miller and Chris Miller.
And then even the capitulation's not going to work, because then they'll want to put us in concentration camps because we've capitulated. And we've confessed. Well, I only eat a baby once during Christmas time. Other than that, I eat cows or chickens or something. So the thing what Democrats have to do, and I'm hoping they do it, is they have to come hard and fast at the Republic. Everybody who trespassed, it was in that siege, needs to be identified and jailed. They need to get jail time. If they just trespassed it, then maybe a week or two. If they were plotting to overthrow the government, 20 years. But they all need to, and there needs to be stories about that on a regular basis, on what they did and why they did it, et cetera. and the politicians, the congressmen and the senators who were part of this plot need to be thrown out of office, not by the voters, but I mean by law, put out and not allowed to hold office again. That's the only way that we're going to bring this to an end, is if enough people get hit hard enough. You know, cops would stop killing unarmed black people if every time they did it, they went to prison. No, none of this, okay, well, we can't quite figure out whether they meant to do it or they didn't do it. You know, they tripped and their gun went off 7 times. So, you know, but if the same laws apply to police as they do to a regular citizen, these shootings would stop immediately. And so that's what has to be done.
Well, I can't see, maybe I'm wrong, but at this moment I cannot see what you're calling for to happen. I cannot see congressmen removed from office for supporting Trump. Listen, Trump blatantly incited this insurrection. We all saw it. We all heard it.
Right.
I can't even. Right now, the joke is you got 6 Republicans, 6. That's it. And the headline: "Begin to break."
Last Wednesday was the turning point. The merit is going to follow the law. And so they're going to find all these major players and they're going to put them in jail. They're going to find out who the congressmen were who were in cahoots with Trump and these people. That's all going to come out. There's going to be criminal action against Trump. You know, I like to go out on limbs.
Yes, you do. We'll talk about that in a little while, but go ahead.
It's a thrill ride. You know, it's like being on the roller coaster. So you're out there on that wind, bouncing up and down and side to side. What have you? Okay, this is my latest
limb.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we will know in 8 days whether I was right or wrong. None of this long distance business. But I'm predicting that Biden gets sworn in as president at noon Wednesday, a week from today. And before the business day is over, somebody from New York is handing Trump an open indictment. And there will be more to come. At some point, Georgia's going to give him indicted on criminal activities. I mean, it's. Did you ever see that movie, The Harder They Fall? The Jamaican movie?
Yeah, the reggae movie from 1972.
Yeah,
Jimmy
exactly.
Cliff.
Well, I keep thinking of that song. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I'm going to put that on my wall sometime.
Just to infuriate MAGA a little more than you already fear. All right, so since you're in the game of making predictions and going out on limbs, how about this one? What outrage will Donald Trump perpetrate in the coming days? You know he's got something up his sleeve.
Well, the pardons for one thing, for sure, and he's gonna try to pardon himself.
Is he going to pardon the MAGA insurrectionists? No,
he can't. I don't think he can do that because you have to name names for that. You can't just say, and anybody who broke into all 300 of you who broke into the Capitol and stole people's personal stuff and hallways and whatever other horrible things they did, you're forever. You don't have to worry. I pardon you.
I'm going to pardon absolutely everybody who ever voted for me for anything they could possibly be charged with.
So that vote and the actual leaders that I don't think he may do 1 or 2, that he can name. But
there are some named and who've already been charged with.
Right, exactly.
So there are people he could pardon.
Yeah, but I don't think he cares enough about that. Okay. I don't think, he didn't care enough about, he doesn't know him for the most part. He doesn't care about him, so tough luck,
They were dumb enough to listen to him.
Yeah, right. No, good try, but since you didn't actually succeed, because I still getting evicted on Wednesday, then I don't care about you. But he's going to take care of his family and his business associates and what have you. But the problem he has, of course, is that he can't pardon you. He can't pardon you for anything the state of New York is going to get him for.
Yeah, I think you're right. A pardon will be among the outrage that we'll be discussing next week as Biden is sworn in. Donald Trump's got a few outrages left. All right, now let's just
one other thing he may try and pull off. I just remember.
What's that?
Martial law. He's going to declare martial law, and his thinking, which is incorrect, but it's his thinking, is that if the country is under martial law, then we don't have time to get a new president because we're in danger. The troops are there, the soldiers are there, everybody's there trying to protect America. And so who has time to bring in somebody else to do the job when he's doing it himself?
Yeah. You know what's so bizarre about all this is that aside from his incendiary speeches and his rallies and his phone calls to various state officials in Michigan and Georgia, all of which is, I don't know, it seems to be against the law.
No, it is.
It's like he's fighting so hard to subvert the election results. The guy shows no interest in actually being president. I mean, the pandemic is raging in the country right now. He shows no interest whatsoever.
Or even in the economy.
Yeah, it's just like all he cares about is subverting the election.
Well, no, because he loves the significance. The fact that for once in his life he actually matters. But he has influence. He loves that, and he loves having the get out of jail card free. But being president allows him.
All right, now you should know that our listeners are constantly making fun of you for your predictions not being accurate. This is a regular theme. Yes. But I just I did a list. I was thinking about this the other day, and I did a list, and you've done pretty well. I got to tell you, okay, so here's what you've been off in terms of when it's going to happen. Adolfo loves to make fun of you because you said by the 4th of July, Trump will be out of office. I think that was the 4th of July of 2018. So you're off a little bit. But your basic predictions were that Donald Trump would lose to Joe Biden. Check that. Yeah. That the Democrats would hold the House. Check that. That the Democrats would win both races in Georgia. You predicted that. Yeah. And as a result, take back the Senate. Check that. Yeah. And finally, this prediction that you've been making constantly since the moment Donald Trump pretty much was sworn in, that Donald Trump will be impeached. And now it looks like there's a chance.
Twice was right.
Yeah. I mean,
he was impeached.
He was convicted. Yeah. So,
and this time he might get convicted.
Might. If I had to put the bet in Vegas, I'd say no. I'd say that what the games that Mitch McConnell is playing strongly suggest that they're not ready to sever the cord with MAGA. They still, the incumbent Republicans, recognize that Donald Trump is the popular figure in their party. And so what they're doing is they're slowly weaning the Republicans.
Yeah, I know. Donnie. But again, I think I'm sure I've said this before, is once Trump is no longer in the White House, his allure is going to drop dramatically and fairly quickly. Nobody loves a loser. And that's what he is, you know. I mean, they still, I mean, these MAGA fools that are still backing him, they still believe that he's going to be able to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And before next week, somehow, some way, America's going to come to its senses and realize that Trump was such a great leader and president, and et cetera, and that he gets to stay in office. And Biden is an old, senile man, and nobody wants him anyway, so he won't be sworn in. I mean, they still are of that mentality, a lot of them.
Well,
and so
I
once that is over, once that is over, and the greatest thing that has happened, we didn't mention this, but the greatest thing that has happened in the past week is Twitter shut him down. That makes all the difference.
All right, Monroe, address the issue that this is an egregious violation of Trump's rights to a freedom of speech.
Anybody who is bothered to read the Constitution would know that it says Congress shall pass no law limiting free speech. Just Facebook, Twitter are private companies. And just like a baker can't be told that he must bake a cake for a gay couple, nobody can tell Twitter or Facebook who they can do business with or not do business with. They get to, it's their business, they get to make the decision. But Americans confuse this whole freedom of speech right all the time. And if you are employed by somebody, a private employer, they can fire you because you didn't say Mr. before their last name if they want to. It's their choice. They get to do it.
I don't think, I hear what you're saying. I don't think Americans are confused by it. They just want their side to be winning. So in other words, I think every American, I've interviewed so many people about their bosses down to the years because I write about politics. And so constantly like getting somebody at City Hall to comment about Mayor Daley or Mayor Rahm or Mayor Lightfoot. And they're very cautious and nervous because they think they could be fired. So everybody knows there's a limitation to speech in this country. But you're right. They just invoke this ideal of unfettered freedom.
Yeah, no, but they confuse that part. I mean, particularly when it's somebody they like who's being put in their place.
Absolutely.
Then you know, I mean, when Trump was saying that Obama was a Kenyan, nobody took offense to that. On their side. Nobody took offense to that. And it's just, you know, it depends on what your politics are.
It's all, absolutely. There are no fixed principles. Well, there's very few fixed principles anywhere in politics today. Definitely not in the Republican Party. It's all tactical. We're seeing that right now with Mitch McConnell. We're seeing that here in Illinois, where Republicans get all fired up over Michael Madigan, and are silent about Trump. So we all know that's going on, Monroe. Absolutely. All right, now I just have to, before I let you go, let you know that I finally, and thanks to Frank, I can't thank you enough, Frank, got an opportunity to see Hamilton. Your favorite music. Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
I watched it this Saturday.
Speaking of my list of being right.
Yes.
I tell you that you love it.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And I have to say that the level of genius in that show is so deep that on one viewing, I only think I captured about 30% of it. You know, I got to watch it again. Now, will I watch it 7, 8 times like you have? I don't know. But I will watch it.
Closed captions up?
Yes. Oh, come on, man. I'm old. I put the closed captions on everything. Okay.
All right.
So, I don't play around, man.
Yeah.
I finally figured out how to put those closed captions on. That was tough. I had to call millennials all over the country. I'm having trouble with this. But no, it was just, you were right. Toy Hutchinson, who used to come on the show all the time when she was a state senator, she was telling me I had to watch it, so she was right. It's brilliant. In fact, Eric Zorn quoted it today in the Tribune. A very funny quote, having the King George. What a character he was in that show.
Oh, I know.
I know. So I want to thank you for. Oh my God, folks! You have no idea how many times Monroe Anderson would say, "You haven't seen Hamilton? You've got to watch." So I finally saw it. My times.
That's good. So now when somebody talks about being in the room where it happened, you'll know exactly what they're talking about.
Absolutely, one of the greatest encapsulations of how politics gets done.
Exactly.
That song and that in that show where they talk about the back room wheeling and dealings, and Ricky Hendon, who comes in the show from time to time, talks about that all the time. All the action, Ben, happens at the meeting before the meeting, and then there's the meeting before the meeting before the meeting, and Miranda put that in just so eloquently into that song. I'm gonna when that song went down, I go, oh, that's what Monroe has been talking about. Anyway, you were right on that one, and we'll see if you're right with your prediction of Donald Trump trying to invoke martial law. You've made that prediction. And what was the other one that you predicted would happen? Oh, that before business day is over next Wednesday.
Exactly.
New York will have indicted.
Because this is what you have to think about, is they cannot let him roam free with all the information, although he didn't pay much attention in those briefings. Yeah. He heard enough and he knows enough where our enemies will be very interested in hearing what he has to say, and so they have to give it. Indicting him will be the short-term solution. Just like with the guys who broke into the Capitol, they're hitting them with trespassing because that's the thing to do. But much greater charges will come later. And that's going to be with Trump. They cannot travel anywhere. They need to have his phone tapped. I mean, they have to watch him closely, very close.
All right, that's Monroe Law and Order Anderson. Who knew that old hippie from the 60s?
Right, exactly.
That old reefer smoking hippie. So anyway, that was the 60s, folks. Right. All right, Monroe, it's a blast talking to you. Talk to you next Wednesday, all right?
All right, okay.
All right, that's great.
One thing you may talk. I got to think about this. The inauguration. Now, do I want to be talking to you, or do I want to be watching the?
No, you're being right here talking to me. Don't give me that baloney. I think the inauguration will probably be over by then anyway. So, all right, Monroe Anderson.
Okay. All right.
Take care. It's a pleasure as always. It's a great Monroe Anderson. Do you got any updates for me?
You gotta pump the gas, Walsh. Pump it. Come on.
Ah, there we go.
Everybody has trouble with that gas.
I know. All right, it's the top story of the day locally. And honestly, still hard to believe. Madigan out. Christopher Welch in. The bus has officially and figuratively rolled over Mike Madigan. And after 30 some odd years, we have a brand new speaker. I mean, sure, the new guy is a top ally to Madigan, so we may essentially still be having him around. And, well, we heard some very unflattering news this afternoon about Welch's past, thanks to the Tribune. But, hey, onward and upward, I say. And right now, in my face is a list of public press releases from very important people and organizations congratulating Chris Welch. Shout out to the meanest Illinois political bulldog in the yard. Capital Fax's Rich Miller. Get him on the chain. Scaring the kids. So I have some press releases regarding Christopher Welch. I have organizations and elected leaders. Ben, how about we start off with a statement from the AFL-CIO? What do you say?
All right, let's say, yeah. What does labor have to say?
All right, the Illinois AFL-CIO today issued the following statement in response to the Illinois House selecting Emmanuel Chris Welch as the new speaker. The Illinois AFL-CIO, representing nearly 1 million working families across the state, today offers a hearty congratulations to new Illinois House Speaker Emmanuel Chris Welch. Speaker Welch has a proven track record of fighting for working families, and we are eager to work with him. Senate President Harmon and Governor Pritzker are to address the significant challenges facing the state of Illinois as we begin 2021. That was the comment there from the AFL-CIO.
Well, good. Because let's be clear about what was at stake in this fight. I've said this many times. Michael Madigan, in those 4 years of Rauner's reign, was the goalie blocking us from outrageous anti-union legislation. And say what you will about Michael Joseph Madigan's reign before the Rauner years, he was the one who kept us from turning into, kept Rauner from turning Illinois into a replica of Wisconsin. And, you know, my liberal friends are a little weak on union rights. We were talking about this with Mindy Iser. I really recommend everybody. That's a bonus interview that'll drop this weekend. A journalist for In These Times who talks about how to win over Trump voters. Anyway, we were talking about how weak liberals are when it comes to union rights. And Michael Madigan, for all his flaws, was very strong in this, and that's part of the reason why the labor movement was so loyal to him up until the very end. So the notion that Chris Welch will carry on that legacy is a good one, I say, because I believe in union rights.
All right, that was from the AFL-CIO. On to our next press release statement. This one comes from an elected leader. It is the Illinois State Treasurer and, jury's still out, but some say the tallest man in Springfield. Him and Gazzardi are like right there with each other. One Michael Frerichs. Michael Frerichs said about Chris Welch becoming the new speaker, "We witness history today when members of the Illinois House of Representatives elected the first African American to lead their chamber. I have worked successfully with the new speaker to pass legislation to make it easier to save for college and fought alongside him to ensure the life insurance industry pays death benefits after a customer passes away. Because of those past victories, I am excited to work with him to bring financial order to our state and expand economic opportunity for every person in Illinois."
Yeah, he's a statewide official. Frerichs, a senator, runs statewide. And as any statewide official, the Madigan's presence got him a little nervous. I don't know what other statements you're going to have, but we'll get into this if you have Pritzker or Tammy Duckworth, what have you. But statewide, Madigan is very unpopular outside of Chicago. She's not that popular in Chicago. And we've talked about this many times in the show. He was perhaps the most successful tool the Republicans had. And so isn't that interesting? Let's just take for a moment. Let's just pause for a moment to think about this. This just popped into my head. Just having that conversation with Monroe. Democrats in the House and in the Senate in Washington are moving quickly to impeach and convict Donald Trump and make him pay responsibility, be responsible for his actions in inciting a riot, inciting insurrection. And Republicans are saying, come on, unity is what matters. Put that beside us. Here we are in Illinois. And the Democrats finally cut the cord with Madigan. All right, you've been hammering us Republicans with Michael Joseph Madigan for the last 4 years. We better, cut him loose because we don't want to be tied to him anymore. And instead of Republicans saying you did the right thing, now let's work together. Well, what are they saying? He's just another Madigan pawn. Fight, keep the fight. It's not like, congratulations, Democrats, for doing the right thing. Isn't that interesting? But in Washington, come on, can't we all just get along and let Donnie Trump go? We hear Democrats turn on their guy, Michael Joseph Madigan. They won't. The 19 stood strong. The 19 said they weren't going to vote for him, stood strong, blocked Madigan from being elected to the speaker. So Chris Welch was brought in. And the Republicans are like, oh, come on, he's just another man. What'd you think, Republicans, that they were going to nominate a Republican? You know what, for the sake of unity, I think we'll nominate Jim Durkin. Why would they? So, not a lot of credibility on the Republican side and the whole unity thing, D. You know what I'm saying? That unity thing. Not a lot of credibility.
Oh, wait, we have a quote. I forgot to read it from Michael Frericks here. It says, for the record, I am taller than Will Guzzardi. Okay.
But Giannoulis may be taller than each of them.
Oh, my God.
Let's see.
Giannoulis, he's a tall feller, huh?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, look it up.
I'm not going to look it up. Up next, it's our friend, Terry Cosgrove in Personal Pack.
TC
and Personal Pack weighed in. Personal Pack and TC said about Chris Welch, quote, in every single fight for reproductive rights in the Illinois General Assembly over the past decade, Chris Welch has been a passionate, strategic, thoughtful, and leading voice in the Illinois House. Welch is fearless in his support for reproductive justice. When many thought the historic 2017 fight for HB 40 would not be successful, Chris Welch worked to help us end the disgraceful denial of abortion care to low-income women and state employees. In 2019, when the groundbreaking Reproductive Health Act was facing an uphill battle in the Illinois House, Chris Welch spoke eloquently for the need to protect all Illinois women, regardless of Donald Trump's Supreme Court. All right, there's about 4 more paragraphs here. Wait, Terry Cosgrove is very excited. We're going to pause it right there, though. Ben, your thoughts?
Well, TC, no dope. And very shrewd practitioner of the game. Knows how the game is played. Terry Cosgrove comes on the show all the time and lays out his strategy and his thoughts on these things. And it's like Madigan was here. Cosgrove, Terry worked with Madigan and got whatever he could get out of Madigan on the issue of paramount importance to Terry, which is abortion rights. Now Madigan's gone. Just switch over and work with Welch. Terry Cosgrove is all about either passing legislation that guarantees a woman's right to choose in matters of abortion or blocking legislation that would outlaw abortion in this state. That's what he's all about. He makes it very clear. And so now there's a new speaker, and that speaker has been an ally of Terry Cosgrove. Terry Cosgrove is going to be an ally of him. That's how the game is played, D. You learn from TC. He knows how the game is played. Put your big boy pants on, as Terry Cosgrove would say.
All right, and we'll do one more here. Finally, a politician, one we haven't heard from in a while. Ben, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Controller Mendoza, Susana Mendoza.
Wow.
Yeah.
We've not heard from Susana Mendoza in a long, long time.
Mendoza, where the hell have you been?
Mendoza report.
Yeah, we haven't done a Mendoza report in ages. All right, so let's hear what Mendoza had to say. Terry Cosgrove, take notes. This is like one paragraph, so here we go. Controller Mendoza says, congratulations, Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch, on your historic election as the first African-American Speaker of Illinois House of Representatives. I have appreciated your help on legislation over the years, and I look forward to working with you to move Illinois ahead.
All right, Susana Mendoza used to be a state rep. She's a good Democrat, as they say. Now, are there any when you're looking at that list that Rich Miller put together? Are there any other women besides Susana Mendoza on that list?
I have Margaret Croak.
Okay, state representative from the north side of Chicago. That's the other one on that list. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this will be interesting because the Republicans will soon shift from linking Welch to Madigan. Well, they'll probably continue to do that for a while. I mean, they've invested a lot of money into turning Madigan into pariah. They're not going to let that go that quickly, but they'll shift to the police report of brutality from 2002. So it'll be interesting to see what impact that'll have on the women in the Democratic Party. But Susana Mendoza, man, she was a regular on our show back in the old days when we were on the radio station with the Mendoza Report. And I really respected her, appreciated her, because she was a fighter against Rauner. Folks, Rauner was like an existential fight for someone like me, much like Trump. And it was on labor issues. This was back in the day. Most of this was when I was at the radio station. And What Rauner was trying to do to unions in the state of Illinois, destroy collective bargaining rights in the name of somehow or other, promoting the economy, somehow or other making it more difficult for workers to stand up to bosses who are just going to randomly punish them or fire them, or make it give them a mechanism by which they can negotiate for a higher wage, somehow or other giving employees an opportunity on a collective basis to protect themselves from just unwarranted firings and punishment. That would be detrimental to our economy. And so I took it as a very existential threat for the union movement in the state of Illinois, and I took Rauner very seriously. And Mendoza was really fought hard. I appreciated her for that. She was really fought hard against Bruce Rauner. And you're right, Dee. She has kind of disappeared from the stage. She ran for mayor. I didn't think that was the greatest idea in the world, and it was unsuccessful. She got caught up in the Ed Burke corruption trial, indictment, and so she was unsuccessful there. And the role she plays in Pritzker's administration is a lot different than the watchdog she was playing during the days of Bruce Rauner. Didn't even have a budget. So, yeah, I hadn't thought about Susanna in a while. I haven't had her on the show in a while. Should bring her back. But Chris Welch is going to need support from as many Democratic women as he can going forward. Pretty obvious.
All right, yeah, we should try and get Mendoza back. Also on the list of people we need to get back, just because I thought of it. Wagaspack, Scott Wagaspack.
Scotty, man.
Where you been, Scott?
Come on, Scotty.
Come on
back.
What's the deal, Scott?
He loves Lori Lightfoot, ladies and gentlemen. Scotty loves Lori. I'll bring him back. I like Scotty.
So there you are. We'll obviously have more on this. Chris Welch becoming the new speaker on tomorrow's program. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, and so much more. Over 800 episodes of this show for you to download at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download your favorite podcast. We played it at the top of the hour there. Jeanette Taylor, 20th Ward Alderwoman. If you haven't heard this interview yet, you're missing out. Go check it out. Download it now. A very candid interview with Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, and spoiler alert, she says the F-bomb like 20 times. It's awesome. So go check that out. And all the other archives, we're going to have the Monroe Anderson interview available later on tonight, as well as the back half, what we just talked about here, available for download as well. Share that with your friends. And if you listen on download, check us out on the YouTube channel, Chicago Reader YouTube, Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time. And join the live stream chat. Meet Dragon Slayer 19, Frank, J. Marie, Jim, Brianna, Steven, and so much more. We'll talk to everybody tomorrow.
All right. I want to thank Monroe Anderson for an outstanding job. And, of course, I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, Pride of Joe and Alton Law, without whom the show is possible. And as in a rare show of unity, Jim Durkin and Chris Welch will tell you back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
That is correct. That is correct.